Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Russ Riesinger.
And I'm Janelle Slade. Tonight, more evidence that Sunday night's hailstorm left much more than just physical damage across our region.
Harvest time, usually an exciting time for Montana farmers as they get to reap the rewards of an entire year's worth of work.
But instead, tonight in our Montana Ag Network report, we head out to the field for a much different story.
Russell Nemitz shows us how the recent hail has put a major dent in this year's harvest and our farmers' pocketbooks.
You know, this was going to be a phenomenal barley crop, and unfortunately we had no estimates yet, and we hadn't cut any barley to actually know what the yield was going to be on this field. But if it had anything compared to the wheat, it was going to be phenomenally above average.
But unfortunately, like other farmers in south central Montana, hopes for a successful harvest at the Downs farm near Molt were instead quickly replaced with disbelief as a late summer thunderstorm on August 18th, loaded with baseball-sized hail, destroyed 1/3 of their barley and wheat crops.
So we were looking forward to this harvest. We've had above average rainfall, so we had good potential for good yields this year, and we actually started harvest a couple days ago, so we did get a little bit in the bend before this storm came through, and yields were beyond average, beyond bumper crop actually. So it was disappointing to have this storm come through because it was a big loss for us.
He says it's a hopeless feeling watching an entire year's worth of work destroyed in a matter of minutes.
We have a lot of time and sweat equity invested in this crop, from seeding it to spraying it, fertilizing it, and inspecting it throughout the season. We spent a lot of time on it, and it's pretty much like having a job and working every day and finding out you're not going to get a paycheck at the end of the year.
As they continue to assess the damage, a lot of this year's income lay shattered in the soil.
Just rough math we ran. Approximately, we're looking at about $400,000 laying on the ground right now.
He says examples like this of Mother Nature's unpredictability is why farmers need crop insurance to stay in business, to raise crops that provide food to consumers both here at home and around the world.
We don't always use it. We rarely use crop insurance, but when we need it, it's years like this.
And even with 1/3 of their farm devastated by the recent hailstorm, Harvest 2019 continues for the Downs family, providing at least a little bit of hope for a successful harvest yet this year. Reporting near Molt, Montana, Russell Nemitz, MTN News.
And Russell tells us despite the crop losses, the Downs family's harvesting the remaining crop and already making plans for next year.
Meanwhile, more farmers across the region report major losses to entire fields of barley, corn, and sugar beets.
All right, returning to Bob now for the weather. You've been tracking some possible storms this evening. How's it looking?
Well, I'm afraid to say here we go again. Let me show you what's happening out there. We start off with this. This is our thunderstorm outlook for today. Isolated thunder showers west of Billings. But once those storms get east of Billings, we go into marginal risk of severe storms and an increased risk of severe storms over there in places like Carter and Powder River County. So yeah, we'll look at this. We'll zoom in. You can look at this thing that moved right on through Forsyth just about 15 minutes ago. Big storm. It had 1-inch size hail, 60-mile-per-hour winds. Over there by Pompey's Pilgrim, we also have a big storm starting to make its way into that area. So it's going to be kind of a bumpy night tonight. We'll keep you advised should things get a little shakier. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Bob.
Well, the man who forced a standoff with police on Billings West End last night now charged with 2 felonies.
25-year-old Anthony Cross charged with attempted assault with a weapon and criminal endangerment after police say he tried to seriously injure his mother. He allegedly pointed a shotgun at her head and wouldn't let her or another relative leave the apartment.
Court documents also state Cross was heavily intoxicated and armed when he engaged in last night's standoff with police.
And the Mineral County man charged with assault on a minor for slamming a child to the ground during the national anthem in Superior says he's not guilty.
39-year-old Kurt Brockway entered that plea this morning. Witnesses say it happened after the boy refused to remove his hat during the national anthem at the Mineral County Fairgrounds. Now, the child, who received skull fractures in that incident, was sent to Spokane.
Now, Brockway's attorney says his client believes he was acting on an order from President Donald Trump. The state had requested his bond to be set at $100,000, but the judge ruled Brockway can be released on his own recognizance.
Historic Colson Park along the Yellowstone River in South Billings is now a little closer to a new look, feel, and future. DHM Design presented 4 potential concept designs at today's Billings Parks meeting. The project is in the evaluation phase. The presented plans feature elements that residents have ranked as important. Now, those include environmental and cultural needs, history of the area, and anything that could drive forward tourism and economy and connections to downtown.
As landscape architects, or me personally, kind of parks are at that pinnacle of project type because it's great. You can get a lot of different user groups and ages and abilities and really kind of see a broad swath of the community, and that's kind of the goal, that it becomes an asset for all of those different groups.
And the architecture firm says it is now time for people to weigh in on the different plans so they can move forward with a master plan that's supposed to be pitched in September. Now, the 4 plans, as well as more information, can be found at colsonpark.com.
The Democrats running for president often take aim at the wealthy in words and policy proposals, but their financial disclosure forms and other reports reveal that most of them have a net worth of at least $1 million, including Montana Governor Steve Bullock. MTN's Mike Dennison has more on how our governor and the other Democratic presidential candidates stack up.
According to Bullock's financial disclosure form, which has candidates listing assets and a range of values, he and his wife Lisa's net worth ranges from $1 million to $2.4 million. Forbes magazine reported Wednesday that Bullock is worth about $1.5 million, placing him 14th out of the 24 Democrats running for president. The richest Democratic presidential candidate is hedge fund manager Tom Steyer, who just recently entered the race. He's worth about $1.6 billion. Earlier this week, Bullock criticized Steyer for, in Bullock's words, buying a spot in the next Democratic candidate debate in September by using his wealth to generate the threshold level of more than 130,000 donors. Bullock has yet to qualify for that debate. Other Democratic candidates wealthier than Bullock include Elizabeth Warren at $12 million, Joe Biden at $9 million, and Bernie Sanders, who clocks in with a net worth of $2.5 million. Most of Bullock's wealth is in retirement accounts, but he also has property in Helena, including the old Herman's Furniture Building near Laskance Gulch. And finally, Forbes ranked the candidates for their level of charitable giving. Bullock was among the highest who released their tax returns at 4% of his income. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Well, Forbes reported that President Trump has the highest net worth of any candidate, $3.1 billion. Trump also got the lowest possible score for transparency.
Up next on tonight's 5:30 News, it's more fun and games at Montana Fair, but tonight we'll check out the soundtrack to your evening.
And in sports, our signature golf series takes us to Anaconda in the old works course built by Jack Nicklaus.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Breen. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.